Hey there, and welcome to what I'm calling Vibrato Summer Camp. So we're really in my childhood home backyard near Mount Airy, North Carolina, and I just wanted to share this very important piece of my life with you for these sessions. So yeah, we're talking about vibrato this week and in this little playlist. So I just decided we do it outside and we'll make it summer camp. So, vibrato. I've definitely had some unpleasant experiences with vibrato. I'm thinking of vocal competitions I've sung in when I felt very pressurized and nervous, when I wasn't exactly sure about how I was managing my breath or how to ease up or calibrate my support, and I was just trying to make sure my knees were bent the right way, my belly was feeling the right way, my sternum was in the right position. I was taking all these cues from a really terrific teacher that I was working with at the time who employed a lot of these methods, but I didn't have a complete understanding of how these pieces of physiology interacted or how to use them well with the understanding of how they aided or affected each other. This would result in being very confused about what was going on with vibrato. Sometimes, especially for me, the amplitude of my vibrato, the wave of that would be wider than I would want it to be, and I wouldn't really know how to manage it or change it. Then, of course, I would get really self-conscious about my vibrato not sounding the way that I wanted it to, and then that would usually make me grab on more, which obviously didn't help. And that's just a really terrible cycle of tension, anxiety, and frustration. I also had the other side of the coin when I was in my mid to late, well, early, my entire 20s, let's just say the decade of my 20s, when a lot more contemporary commercial styles were being requested in the audition room. I didn't really have access to pop or rock styles at that time. When I graduated from college, I could sing traditional musical theater and kind of late 20th century musical theater well, but diversity of style wasn't in my toolbox as much as I wanted it to be. And so you would often hear this advice on contemporary styles to just take the vibrato out. And that really lacks nuance, to say the least. But I spent a lot of time trying to shoehorn a straight tone sound into something that might have sounded like, I don't know, The Police or Creedence Clearwater Revival. It worked okay, but I always chose material that kind of laid back and never really effectively answered the questions that the audition was asking. Because I didn't have confidence in embodying the style, I would sort of aim around the style and hope that the table people would say, "Oh, I see potential in you. Let me work with you and draw out your natural abilities." That whole psychology, that is another video playlist, which I will make for you because it's important to address. But needless to say, vibrato issues in all styles. By the way, hi there. My name is Dan Calloway. I am a singer and a teacher. I'm currently on faculty at Boston Conservatory at Berkeley. I teach musical theater voice, and I teach in the MFA Musical Theater Vocal Pedagogy degree program. And I also teach one-to-one and in groups online and in person through my studio here at Dan Calloway Studio. I'm going to give you an overview of my experiential understanding of vibrato. I'm going to share with you the ways that I've struggled with it and the ways that I have found to help me. And I'm going to share with you the ways that I've helped students who've had struggles with their vibrato, how I've helped them resolve and actually enjoy releasing this oscillation. That is what vibrato is to me. It is a result of how the oscillations of the vocal folds affect the tissues of the vocal tract. So just north of your larynx is this tube called your pharynx. And the pharynx runs from your vocal folds all the way to the opening of your nose. The pharynx behind your mouth and down toward the larynx is lined with these muscles called constrictors, and they do an amazing job of what they are called, constricting. They swallow for you hundreds of times a day, and they do impact the way that your voice sounds when it comes out of your mouth. Vibrato occurs when there is a degree of softness and release in these muscles. What happens is this: you have vibrations at the vocal fold level, and these vibrations have many different frequencies and overtones. To understand all that, all you got to do is Google Pythagoras and overtones. Pythagoras and overtones, and you will be bombarded with more acoustic information than you can digest. At least that's my experience. But for the acoustics on that, start there. So you have the vibration at the vocal fold level. The sound waves then travel through the vocal tract out of your mouth and or nose. So I want you to imagine water traveling through a cylinder. If the cylinder has solid walls, if the water has any kind of waveform to it, the cylinder will take away some of that waveform and affect the wave of the water itself. Now, imagine if that cylinder were made of rubber. If water is passing through a cylinder and there are waveforms in that water, the cylinder will be affected by the water moving through it. I make this gesture a lot. I call it rubber chicken. So the walls of the cylinder itself will move in response to those waves of water. All right? This is similar to what happens in the vocal tract with straight tone and vibrato. And your pharynx is the cylinder I was talking about. If you engage the pharyngeal constrictors, your swallowing muscles, that makes the body of the pharynx more solid, therefore not as affected by sound waves. If you soften and relax the pharyngeal or swallowing muscles, then the tube becomes more supple and therefore able to be affected by sound waves. If you regularly sing with vibrato, you can try this yourself and notice the subtle differences in muscular engagement when you let vibrato release and when you employ what we call straight tone. So meditate your attention into the pharynx and just notice how that feels. And if you just sing, say, let's sing an ooh vowel. Ooh. You will notice the different parts of the vocal tract that are allowed to vibrate. To me, it's important that we see vibrato as a holistic event in the voice. I've experienced a lot of singers who perceive a vibrato as an extra effect that you layer on top of your singing, and it's really an event that we consciously allow and emanates through the whole vocal event. So I encourage you to start playing with that, singing tones with and without vibrato, and bringing your attention and your witness into this pharyngeal space. All you got to do is snort where your uvula is flopping against the back of your pharynx. That's your pharyngeal space. And pay attention to that space and notice the subtle muscular engagements and releases that create both those tones, the engagement of the swallowing muscles that will make the tube more solid, therefore restricting the emergence of vibrato, and then also the release of the pharyngeal walls that makes the pharynx softer, and therefore it can allow and cooperate with the oscillations of the vocal folds. We experience vibrato as a release because that's exactly what it is. Our mirror neurons can feel that there has been a muscular release. And that's a big reason why we employ so much of the straight tone into vibrato coordination or stylization in musical theater singing. We can feel that we can feel the shift of the hold of the pharyngeal muscles into the release of the pharyngeal muscles. In the next part of this video playlist, I'm going to talk about the reasons that vibrato issues can be so hard to work on and how you can navigate through and show up for yourself as you develop your own facility and skill with this. And I'm also going to talk about the particular ways that these issues can show up, whether your vibrato is experiencing a wider wave than you want or if it's a quicker wave than you want. All of this, realizing that in theater singing, we have the privilege of making all kinds of different sounds. So, depending on the character you're playing and the vocal image you're sharing, all possibilities are really there. So, I want you to think about it in terms of a continuum of possibility rather than a right or wrong cubbyhole situation. What I want for you is that when you sing, 100% of you gets to come through. And you have the tools to know how to soften, how to allow things in your physiology to let your soul communicate in a free and satisfying way. And vibrato is a wonderful way into that. So join me in these next few videos. If you haven't already, please like this video and subscribe to the channel so that you can get updates when I make these videos and share these tools. All right, that is all from Vibrato Summer Camp Session 1. And for now, go sing! Play with your vibrato. Bye.